Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simple Little Life, and welcome to installment number 13 of Viewers Knives. I really like doing Viewers Knives videos because it's so neat to see what you guys have been making, and it really represents so many different age demographics, different parts of the world, different walks of life, but we're all kind of united with the same commonality, the same interest in knife making. Really inspirational to see what you guys are doing, so let's get right into it. Alright, so the first knife we'll look at is sent to me from Noah, and he is a 16-year-old physics laboratory assistant apprentice in Switzerland. This is the first knife he's done with the stock removal method. It's not finished yet, but he wanted to share it, and I think it's turning out really great. Nice blade shape, nice handle size there. Very nicely done, Noah. Thank you for sharing this with us. Alright, next we're going to go to Kenya, and Michael is a 14-year-old knife maker, and the really interesting story behind this knife. The steel that he used was actually from a sword from an East African tribe called the Maasai. I apologize if I get that incorrectly, but what an interesting story. The scales are made from a sheet of polycarbonate, and he did this thing entirely with hand tools. The overall length is 3 1/4 inches, and it weighs less than 10 grams. What a fascinating little knife. I really like it, and just the story behind it, that is so neat. So, Michael, thank you for sharing this. Keep up this fantastic work. Alright, we're going to go to another Michael who's also 14 years old, and he is from Slovakia. This knife he made from some steel he bought at a local shop, and he's surprised that it actually cuts paper. I think it's a great looking blade. He learned how to make knives entirely from YouTube videos, and that's really cool. Same story that I have, so really awesome. Thank you, Michael, for sharing this with us, and keep up this great work. Alright, another 14-year-old knife maker. These are from Ben, and he's from Wisconsin. He's been watching the YouTube videos for quite a while, really enjoys them, has learned a lot. He's wondering if we could feature these two knives, and these are the first knives he's ever made. Really great looking blades. It looks like he made both of them from a file, and the wood that he had, that kind of looks like oak to me. I'm not entirely sure though, but really nicely done, Ben. Keep up the fantastic work. Alright, Aaron sent pictures of this knife that he's made, and he actually made a belt grinder for the purpose of making this knife. He said it took a long time, but in the end, Aaron, I would say it was definitely worth it. Really nice looking chopper here. It looks like the steel that he used is CPM 4V, and it looks like he's named it the Zephyr. Really cool looking blade. Also, you can find him on Instagram under Revolution Machine. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Very nicely done, Aaron. Thank you for sharing this with us. Next, we'll go to South Africa and a 16-year-old knife maker named Stefan. This was the first knife he's made, and he said that even though there are a lot of faults in it, he's learned a lot of things not to do next time. So that's the big thing, you know what? Keep remembering that every knife you make is going to get better than the previous one. I think this is a great looking blade, and Stefan, keep at it, keep making these fantastic knives. What a lot of fun it is, isn't it? Ben, aka Jack Dusty, submitted this picture. This is the 14th knife he's made. I think this is such a nice looking knife. He says he's still learning a lot in the process and having so much fun doing it. I'll leave a link to his Instagram account below so you can check out more of his work. This is a great looking blade. Ben, thank you so much for sharing this, and keep on making knives. Alright, Tony sent this wonderful email. It really cracked me up. He said he's a 14-year-old, and he put in brackets, well, I was 14 40 years ago. He's a knife maker from Saskatchewan, Regina, and he's also a tool restorer. He's made 3 knives so far, and he's learning more with every blade. For stock, he prefers to use old saw blades, files, and flat crowbars. He enjoys giving new life to these old, rusty, castaway tools, and also they're found for inexpensive, so that's a great way when you're looking to find materials to make your knives. Be a little creative and look around for this stuff. So you can see here he's cut a lot of these knives out of saw blades, and I think these are really great looking blades. Really nice leather sheath here, and wow, it looks like he's got a lot of work cut out for him there. A lot of fun knives to grind out, and he's also been cutting them out with a plasma cutter, so I'm jealous of that. That's one tool I'd certainly love to have. Tony, thank you so much for sharing this. Also, I'll put a link to his Instagram account as well. Check him out there. And Tony, keep on making these knives. I hope you continue to have so much fun, and thank you so much for sharing these with us. David is a 14-year-old knife maker from Croatia, and this is the first knife he's made. He thought about making a Kirdashi because it wasn't all that big. It didn't need a lot of fancy machines and stuff, and he also didn't need too much material. He found a piece of scrap metal and made this knife. Overall length is 7.3 centimeters, and next he'd like to try and do a bushcraft or a tanto knife. Great looking blade here, David. Thank you so much, and thank you for your kind words on the channel. To Germany we go, and Janik is a 20-year-old knife maker. He started making knives about 1.5 years ago, and he says that this YouTube channel, especially Tool Time Tuesday, has really helped him improve the quality of his knives. These are some amazing looking knives you've made, Janik. I think they're absolutely fantastic, very nicely done, and very ambitious in these undertakings. Everything from a friction folder to the big kukri to some of these smaller blades, very nicely done. These are absolutely cool to see. Thank you, Janik, for sharing these with us, and like you said, absolutely hooked on knife making. I know the feeling. Keep on having a blast with it. Ferril is a 16-year-old knife maker from Connecticut. He's been making knives for about 3 years now, and this is the most recent knife he's made. He also has an Etsy shop, Hands of Horus, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Really enjoys the videos, and thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Alright, Zach is from Georgia and he made this knife for a friend. He actually made it to match his friend's park ranger uniform, and that is really cool. The scales there are 4 pieces of 3/16 G10, and he's got carbon fiber pins and as well as a carbon fiber lanyard tube. This is a really great looking knife. He also made a kydex sheath for it with a tech lock. You can see he's cut this knife out of an old saw blade, and looks like you've got a lot more fun in front of you there. This is a fantastic looking blade. Keep at it, and thank you so much for sharing this. Next, we're going to go to Exeter, Rhode Island, and John is an 18-year-old knife maker. He's a huge fan of the channel, and he says that it has inspired him to help build his first knife. That's so cool to hear. Him and his brother started making this from an old saw blade. After they cut it out, they beveled it with a homemade bevel jig, and they drilled the pinholes, heat treated it, and then they put an apple vinegar patina on the blade. The scales are wenge wood, and as a side project also, he made a fidget spinner out of black walnut. That is really cool to see, and you know what? Thank you so much for sharing this, John. Keep making this knives. I really like the shape of that little blade. Very well done. Brandon is a 19-year-old knife maker, and this is the first knife he's ever made. He made it out of an old file he had laying around, and he says that these videos have helped him a lot. That is a fantastic looking blade, Brandon. Very nicely done. Keep up the great work. Also, I spot a hockey net in the background. Yes. Jimmy is a 17-year-old knife maker, and he's been making all sorts of stuff since he was 12 years old. Stuff like slingshots and all kinds of other things. He really was inspired to make a knife by this channel, so he took a piece of angle iron, hand beveled it. He said it was a lot of work, totally worth it. For the scales, he just used plywood, kind of using what he had around, and he actually dipped it in boiled vinegar to give it a patina. He made a horizontal belt carry sheath for it, and he says even though it's not the prettiest thing, he's very proud of it, and I say absolutely be proud of this. This is fantastic. So rewarding, isn't it? So much fun to build something, and even though it's not perfect, it's what we make, it's what we do, and it represents that you're actually taking action. So Jimmy, very nicely done. Thank you for sending these pictures in. Connor is a 14-year-old knife maker, and this is the 4th knife that he's made. He said it was inspired by my mini Tanto. And you know what I find really interesting is I mean, obviously I know the mini Tanto that I made, and then I look at his knife that he made, and they're distinctly different. It's neat to see where he pulled his inspiration, and yet he put his own twist on it. Very nicely done. He's got oak for the scales there, tubes for the pins, and this is a fantastic looking blade. Connor, thank you so much for sharing this. Next we'll go to New Zealand, and Matt says he's a huge fan of the channel, and he was actually inspired to start making knives several years ago while he was working as a ground supervisor at Fairmont Castle in Banff, which incidentally is only a couple hours from where I live, which is really kind of neat. This knife is the first knife he's made, and the wood he used on it was a native wood in New Zealand called rimu. He also included this really interesting attachment of the sketch he did of the Fairmont Castle, and I mean, I've been there lots, I've stayed there several times, and it looks just like it does in this picture. What incredible artistry, both in your knives and in your sketches. That is really cool to see. Very well done, Matt. Thank you for sharing this with us. Alright, now we go to a 12-year-old knife maker from South Carolina, Luke, and this is the first knife he's made. He made it from an old table saw blade and some plywood that he found on the curb. The only tools he used was a $20 angle grinder and a 6x18 belt sander he bought at his local thrift shop. Luke, 12 years old, making knives, that is such a cool thing, very inspirational. I wish you so much success, keep having fun, and thank you for sharing these with us. Alright, over to the Netherlands we go, and this is a knife sent to me from Marwin, and this is the very first knife he's ever done with the stock removal method. The steel that he used was a spring steel, and he did this entire thing with an angle grinder and sandpaper. Also, Marwin is getting into forging, and once he's got some of those knives finished up, he's going to share them as well. Keep up the great work, Marwin, and thank you for your kind words. Alright, since all good things must come to an end, we're going to wrap up this edition of Viewers Knives with this knife here, sent to us by yet another 14-year-old knife maker. Cole is from northern Minnesota, and he made this knife out of a leaf spring that he had flattened out, and used dark walnut for the scales. Also made a nice kydex sheath for it. Cole, this is a great looking blade. I like your maker's mark in there. Fantastic work, and keep it up.
Those are some great looking blades. Thank you so much for sending those in, guys. It is really cool to see what you guys are doing. You know what? If you'd like to have your knife featured on this channel, just email me, jeremy@homesteadknives.com. We will get it featured. Please keep in mind though, I've got about 300 emails in the queue right now, so if you send me an email today, it's going to be several months before I actually get it featured on this channel, but we will get it featured. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, show your support for the other creators, let them know what you think of their knives in the comments below. So cool to see what we're doing, and we're all just enjoying this thing of knife making. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. You can do that by clicking this circle right here. We've got daily videos coming out, most of them knife making related, and thank you so much for watching. Cheers.